Welcome to the channel. Yeah, just want to emphasize on this show that these are all airsoft toys and not really firearms. These are replicas of these. And of course, we do want to emphasize that safety does come first. So again, that does come in handy. Alrighty, let's do this. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year's. During the time of this recording, I'm trying to get this channel been set up for now about a year. It's my own personal channel, which you probably see me on the other channel for this video and for this company here, Airsoft Master. Now, why the other channel? Well, surprisingly enough, it's to do something that we can't sell. Something that I can have in my own collection that I can talk about and probably get more in depth. And since now we can talk about more other things, I can be more neutral about this as well to give you guys what you guys really want when it comes to information on certain type of builds. With that being said, if you don't know me, hi, my name is Mike. But if you know me, yes, I cleaned my room finally. But either way, let's go ahead and get into the show. The MCX is a very popular gun that we know today in modern military firearms and today's AR collectors. What do we know about it? It's because the fact that we have many generations from the time of the legacy is a piston-driven system inside the receiver, and then more up-to-date, instead of doing the key mod, into the Virtus, the Gen 2s, and now the Gen 3s, a lot more lightweight, is the Spears. But if we go before that, there was a program that was important for the military, was to replace many of the surplus amount of the AR lowers. And crewman-wise that we needed was a suppressed weapon that was easily enough to help protect a lot of soldiers, a lot of the military forces out there from getting burned from it. So the development of the Surg program, known as the Suppressor Upper Receiver Group. A couple companies that we know, LaRue, Gemtech, and of course, Sig Sauer. And what more can we say as a more rare occasion to see is an airsoft variant out there. Surprising enough, we don't have to look further as part of my start of my first collection in the episode, we're going to be talking about is the Black P Workshop MCX SURG. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to my first ever episode of my own collection from 6mm Projects. Is a review on the Black Pew Workshop MCX SURG. Yes, it's already been done. This did come out in September, but I finally get a chance to talk to you guys about mine, since we can talk about maybe the positive sides about it, and then we can talk about the flaws and some improvements I can do, what I've done with this one. Now, what started off with is a Black Pew Workshop. It starts off as the gas blowback system, and also is a VFC gas blowback system. So it's not really compatible, or we don't see any conversion kits out there for the Tokyo Marui MWS, and as its own line for the gas blowback. And Black Pew Workshop does a very good setup for everything in regards of the Surge. Starting off, as we've seen, is then the signature of what we know is this massive fatty of a suppressor on a cage on here, which is meant to protect people from burning their clothes or their hands on it. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. This thing actually burns it up a lot. But one thing that we know about in the airsoft community is we like to replicate things a lot. As for a rare item on the MCX SURG from Black Pew Workshop, they made this a dream come true. The ideal concept is a Colt lower receiver for an AR-15, but uses the MCX upper to help it be more reliable in that source, and more of the crewman's weapon, where we can see this be a lot more reliable and easier to work with, as we don't really need more uppers or actually we do need more uppers, we just need no more lowers. I mean, come on, it's a typical AR build. But I digress. Now, one thing that we like about the Black Pew Workshop on here is it's made for the material is a 6061 aluminum, from all the way from the handguard, the upper receiver, the lower receiver, with steel internals on for the hammer, trigger, and a lot of the list goes on for a gas blowback system. Now, when it comes to the rail, what you do see is you do have is two conversion kits out here. You do have is the lower from Black Pew Workshop that does a VSC gas blowback system with the ambidextrous here underneath, and then the upper. Two main complete kits on here that would make it the MCX SURG all throughout as a rifle. Surprisingly enough, I gotta admit, during my time of having fun with it, it is a lot of fun. But not everything is like perfect, as we know, I will get to that down the road. But starting off on my personal build is I kept the cage on here because, again, it's a very unique system. While a lot of special forces will not tend to use it because they'll use it as a pencil case or a pen case holder. I can see why with that suppressor that's on there. But in comparison to the handguard, now the real steel does have two separate types of handguards for it. You will have is the lightweight system handguard, which looks something like this. Sorry for my radio adapter, but you'll end up with a handguard like this, which is the lightweight low profile system on here, is where, surprisingly enough, comparison to it does look like the spear, you do have is the cutout on the front end of it to help out in changing your hop-up adjustment, or for the real steel one is tuning your gas pressure on there for suppress and non-suppress on here. That's what the meaning for the cutout is at. Now, honestly, there are a couple photos on here with this on, and it was okay. But I honestly do like is the SD handguard version. Something about it what actually flows well with the suppressor and how wide is it alongside having a super wide handguard out there. So I decided to go with an SD Virtus handguard because it's close enough. Yes, I don't have the cutouts, and I don't really want to cut the artisan version handguard I have in front, but it's a pretty darn good second to have to give me that same type of ideal concept. So it is out there. Now, just like any other MCX SURG, you do have is a full monolithic rail system all the way from the handguard to the back end of the receiver, so you have enough real estate to put attachments on there, such as, like I did, is my EOTech magnifier or EO rep magnifier, and alongside is a PEG 15 with the replica Surefire Scout 300, or I'm sorry, 600, and a typical foregrip because, again, I have small arms. Sorry guys, I'm only 5'6". Filipino genetics, either way, doesn't matter. The cool part is the attachments on here for this. You still have is your traditional setup with Picatinny on there, so it's a lot easier to work with. And you do have is a modern system of M-lock slots from the 3, 6, and 9 out there for hand grips or anything else you want to change it out and make it a little bit more lightweight. Now, if you do want to use a low profile one, you do have the offsets all around too, from basically the same things you'll end up with is the 11 to 1 o'clock, and then again the same thing for the 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock positions if you want to do some crazy offsets with your M-lock segments. Hey, sometimes you want to rock a foregrip on the 45, you know, some kind of like cool Russian LMG. If that's your thing, by all means. The receiver you do have is the typical trademarks on here for both kits. One thing I can say for sure, if I flip this thing around, the proper trademarks I do have on this bad boy to show off, you end up with is on this Surg here, you end up with a unique serial number on here. For mine, it's 072 with a traditional caliber of 5.56 NATO for the Surg program. Now, what is the difference between, say, oh Mike, what's the difference between the Spear and the Surg? There are quite small details about making it different in comparison to the apfg spears that are out as of right now, such as the nameplate or the data, or basically yes, the nameplate that's on here is FDE and tan, while a typical nameplate we see for the Spear is blank but in black. The same thing can be said about the barrel, and at the same time the charging handle, and I want to say, what else is there? The adapter for the bolt carrier group is different when we talk about internals. You will see some fine details out here in comparison to a Surg to the Lightning, and neither one key main features, which again makes it more unique in the aspect for a conversion kit. I also do like the attention to detail for the lower from BPW is they keep the traditional Colt lower receivers with, again, another unique serial numbers and the same trademarks from the traditional horse that we see for Colt firearms. Again, attention to detail with Black Pew Workshop goes very well and pretty much worth the money when you comes to attention to detail on here. So now, why don't we get into the receiver and actually talk about inside is the internals. The reason why I say that the Surg is going to be different to the Spear in comparison to the Surg is the adapter on the back end of your bolt carrier group where the recoil springs are at. Surprisingly enough, this has a different type of back piece on the cap where this would help out with attaching to the adapter inside here, right where the back underneath the charging handle is at. This is a different type of bolt carrier grip that works specifically with the Surg is because of that cap that works with the adapter to give it the 913 stock to fit inside underneath the traditional buffer tube. Now, the one thing I will say that is a benefit to if you do have is an apfg Gen 1 Rattler, you have something that the Surg does not have, and I do have to give it a drawback for that is what happened to the adjustable end pass. I mean, that helps out a lot for all of us. Like, say for example, I play at Tac City and I want to go indoor. Unfortunately, I can't do that because the end pass on here is non-existent. As if they change it out for even the Spear and the Surg, as these are today's modern, or shall I say for 2024 up to date, is they took away that end pass system that the original startup of apfg had inside their bolt carrier groups. So you might want to be careful exactly if you do want to purchase one of these, is these have a tendency to basically not be changeable of the nozzle valves to help change your FPS. But if you're using it for outdoors, you're most likely going to be in luck. Speaking about the internals, going back on here, another comparison that I do like that Black Pew Workshop does inside the outer barrel where your inner barrel is at is they do give you a perfect length of 300 millimeters underneath that would make it go in the back end of the tip where the suppressor starts. 300 millimeters is a perfect in comparison to if I put a photo up here, This is even being used in the apfg spear, such a short inner barrel, almost the same length as a high kappa 5.1, I would say, or maybe even a 4.3. It's still short, and that might cause down the road, if you're looking to reason why you're baffle striking inside your outer barrel or your suppressor, if you use it with the apfg spear, check your inner barrel. 9 times out of 10, it's still that short. It's the same length as an MCX Rattler build. Now, the internals on here is actually very nice. I do like it. It's the same thing as our traditional VFC gas blowback or apfg system, where it does have the better kick. And one reason why I do like about this conversion kit for the VFCs is the recoil is bang on and really nice in comparison to such as like the Toxic Kit conversion kits for the MWS for gas blowbacks or any type of MCX. But to make it more unique is this type of build, and I do like this thing a lot. Now, I did record this during the time of the recording. I did end up shooting the FPS on here, which on average, surprisingly enough, this thing does shoot in cold with green gas and 0.20 gram BBs around the 380 to 400 feet per second. So it's pretty high for indoors, but perfectly for outdoors. Instead of talking about this, why don't we just bring this up to a couple of drills that I did outside to the backyard. One gripe I do have on the Surg Kit is, yes, it does come with a 300 inner barrel, which is longer than the typical either spear, rattler, or everything else. One problem though is they forgot to add is the big suppressor on the back end of this thing, meaning you're gonna have some baffle strikes on here. So one part I can recommend for this kit, definitely a longer inner barrel. Ew, that's disgusting. Try again. There we go. Sounds about right. Yeah, inner barrel's way off. It's like shifting left. Okay. Sorry, YouTube. Work, as always. All right. Let's try this again. Bill drill. Or also, failure to respond. 3. I'll go with this guy. 2, 1, action. So, if you do want to adjust your hop up from either the apfg, including the BPW Surge, the one thing I can say is the adjustment is actually very convenient to have when it comes to doing the flathead in the front end or an Allen key that would fit inside the gas tube adjustment. Again, the same thing works where it is clockwise to increase, counterclockwise to decrease the hop up. The one thing I would modify on this thing when it comes to the hop up adjustment is why in godforsaken, after how many years, did they still use that little nub on the arm for the hop up adjustment? Yes, you can buy the aftermarket GSI to change it up with a nub and everything else to give it more of that backspin that you want. Why couldn't they do it in the first place? Especially the fact that we know how much the cost of this guy is, being around almost the $500. But I digress, beggars can be choosers, as this is a limited edition gun. We can improve it just by doing certain things for aftermarket parts. So let's look at exactly what the shots that we have here on just, I want to say 10 feet, about 10 feet from the shots. So as you can tell, our groupies are not that great, but for airsoft, again, as long as it hits the silhouette of the body, should be good. The only drawback is I do notice that when we're doing a couple shots, I did hear my BB striking the baffles inside the suppressor. So best adjustment and solution would be is to most likely increase your inner barrel length to, instead of being like the 300 to possibly a 330, or even if you want to go all the way to the end of the suppressor, a 360, you can do so, and that's what I would recommend, and which will improve the range. So, because imagine these guys, but a little bit farther than what we expected, like a typical game, instead of your average backyard shots. But either way, let's go back to the office and talk about this more, and I can stop hearing too many noises of everything from like sirens, howling dogs, in airplanes. Right, so back to what I was talking about for one flaw I do have for the internals is, yes, they do give you the proper length to the handguard, but I wish they could have done it a little bit better, where we did see it go a little bit past that and maybe even halfway towards the suppressor, because this does end up with some baffle strikes and causing problems with your accuracy. We can improve it by just changing to a 601 type of barrel. Again, it's a simple change with a couple grub screws to remove from the outer barrel and then taking out your whole chamber system to getting into the bucking and inner barrel on the MCX SURG or any type of spear. Again, it's a traditional setup that we see that is done on the apfg, is the same setup that you'll expect for the SURG when changing out anything for bucking or inner barrel. It can be done. Now, when you do want to purchase the Black Pew Workshop conversion kit for the MCX SURG, surprisingly enough, when it came in, it was a nice packaging. We do see it with coming with this mean ass suppressor, and alongside is the lightweight profile handguard and everything assembled for the upper, as it comes with is everything you would need, and including the nice 1913 stock adapter, which the 1913 stock adapter is able to be folded like a traditional MCX and at the same time has a 5-positional collapsibility, so you can easily adjust it to your certain length to help you out. Again, some nice little attention to detail. The only thing that you would need to help put this conversion kit all together and functional is a proper VFC gas blowback lower, such as the traditional M4s like I did here when I purchased from Black Pew Workshop, or even a standard BCM gas blowback, or the, if you're lucky enough, the apfg spear, as that will look very well with it. Now, again, there are a couple flaws that I do have in regards of this whole system. Again, it is at the end of the day an MCX. What do we know about the MCX is they're prone to cracking the receivers. So another recommendation I can recommend would be is the black variable buffer tool, where you can end up changing and helping adjusting to exactly help reduce that amount, and it does short stroke your bolt a little bit, so you do have a low plus. The only thing you would have to do is just adjust the amount of space in between to make sure it locks back and it doesn't, short stroke it too much where it doesn't lock back on empty. So you can do that. So when I did purchase this gun all the way through from JK Army, from the conversion kit being around the $600 and the lower around the $232, this does lead up to like about 8 something. And it's not even including the handguard I bought and all the attachments out there. It's just pure bones on the full rifle. Now, that is a lot for a gas blowback. I mean, you can always just buy extra magazines and a BCM or even a 416 and you'll be good on your way for gas blowback. But the creme de la creme of them all is the MCX SURG that is very unique and something that we don't see on the field, makes it a very good collection to add. And I have to admit, it is a very nice system. Though it has drawbacks, it can be improved like any other typical work of art. And at the same time, again, something I can work on in progress, which leads to my conclusion, yeah, I do like it, which is why I got it. Now, this also leads to the end of my first episode on 6mm projects. So what do you guys think about it specifically with the MCX SURG? How do you guys feel about also spending about $800, which it does hurt? But at the same time, what is your guys' thoughts on it? Is it something that you would want to see cop or anything else? And instead of my advice, I would like to end it off on cap is do support your local small businesses for airsoft, as that would help improve their ideas for hobbies and at the same time their revenue and everything else, and add more food to the table. Now for this episode, my name is Mike. I'll see you guys till next time, which hopefully maybe might be the next purchase, whatever we can do. Until then, I'll see you guys later.